Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. It has been a while. Last live stream was Sunday, and it is now Thursday. So haven't seen y'all in quite a while. Obviously, we did have a video on Tuesday, but still 4 days without a single live stream. Quite a long stretch right there. Let's see, we have in the chat, we have Catman Caleb, as well as Ben Legacy Passing Wind, Daniel, and everyone else who may be chatting, who I may have forgotten to welcome, or if you're just now tuning in and not chatting, glad to have you here as well, Chris. Let's go right ahead and dive on into things and see if anything is screwed up here. Nope, looks good to me. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about a AOI out here in the main development region that was recently designated. I think it was either very late last night or very early this morning. This was designated an AOI by the National Hurricane Center. We'll also be going over the potential for some tropical activity out in the Caribbean and the Gulf, just like we did 4 days ago. That still stands true, that we have the potential for a tropical system out there, although definitely not as good of a chance as what we thought we had. 99L just dissipated out of nowhere just southeast of Jamaica as it hit wind shear and just fell apart very rapidly. So thankfully that didn't become a depression or anything worse. And we'll also go over some severe weather. We have a couple severe storms here and there, so we may touch on severe weather and flash flooding today. We'll just see how the stream goes. Chris, thank you for the $10 super chat. I greatly appreciate that. Glad to see you back in here. Hopefully all is well with everyone in chat. Hopefully everyone's had a great Thursday so far. And not really too active in the weather world. Really not that active. A lot of inactivity. We've picked up on a little bit of severe weather here in the U.S. Today we did get a double upgrade. We got to a slight risk for severe weather now. 2% tornado risk today. Tomorrow we did also see an upgrade to marginal in 2 areas, and then still general thunderstorm risk on day 3, and no good severe threats in sight for a while. Today is our first slight risk day in a little while. I don't remember the last time we had a slight risk. It's, you know what, I can actually tell you. I feel like it's probably been almost a week since we've had a slight risk for severe weather. Let's see. It has been a week from today. A week ago today was our last slight risk for severe weather, and that was up in North Dakota and South Dakota, where we had a very photogenic tornado occur. I remember that slight risk, and I want to say that was originally a day 4 or 5, 15% chance for severe weather, and then they ended up pushing that slight risk up more into Montana, and also further south into South Dakota, and that was a 2% tornado risk. I feel like that was a day 4, day 5 slight risk. I'm not 100% sure on that though, but either way, that was our last slight risk for severe weather literally a week ago from today. Literally a week ago from today. Let's see here. Doing pretty good, Void. Glad to see you back in here. Glad to see you back in here for another stream. Hopefully, all is well with you as well. And let's go ahead and switch to. We're just going to go ahead and dive on into the best thing possible, because that helps us do a breakdown on all of our tropics, and that's our ensembles. So we're going to go to the European ensembles, and I'm going to take it over the entire Atlantic basin here. All right, there we go. That is good. And let's go over to this scene. I did fix this scene. Let's hope it is okay. It is still good. So let's go ahead and pull this out. We're going to pull this out all the way to 240 frames. So the main areas to watch here really is in the main development region. You can see this very large spread of ensembles. So even though the NHC's 20% chance for development is only like, about this large at the moment, it's not very large. It's barely over Cape Verde, pointing to the northwest. The actual spread of tropical development for the rest of this month into early September is going to be, pretty much the entire main development region, really, all the way from the coastline of Africa, all the way until you get towards almost Puerto Rico, and then, of course, all the way back up to south of the Azores High and near the Bermuda High, wherever those two may be at this point, which goes out to September 7th. That is pretty far out. That's 240 hours out, so that's like a week and a half. Maybe almost 2 weeks out from now. And another area you can see here is also off the coastline of North Carolina, back into the northeastern Gulf. I wouldn't rule out a tropical system there. However, I think most of that, if you watched my video the other day, I think most of that is going to be subtropical. So a lot of it is going to be more cold core systems as opposed to warm core systems. They'll have a lot of dry air entrainment and be very, very easily torn apart by wind shear. Now, still could cause some gusty winds and some isolated, if they end up hitting the U.S., flash flooding. But the main tropical systems, like a tropical storm or hurricane, I don't personally think that's a possibility with these kind of coast-riding storms here. Another area that is very, very not present here on the European ensembles is this area we've been watching for the last week or so. And you could see development has really decreased there. We really haven't seen any upticks in our ensembles, our main model runs, our deterministics. Nothing is upticked out there in the Caribbean or the Southwest Gulf. The only reason I have that highlighted, really the only reason, is because the CPC has it highlighted. I don't really see much happening out of that anytime soon. Maybe middle September that could get going. If we look at the GFS may have some activity there. Yeah, you can see even the GFS has just a few ensembles having, maximum, absolute worst case scenario, weak tropical depression. That's like the absolute worst case scenario out there for the Southwest Caribbean and the Southwest Gulf. And like I said, really the only reason I highlighted that is because the CPC, the officials, highlighted that region. Also, you can see the GFS does have those kind of subtropical jet stream riders there, or just jet stream riders that are subtropical. And you could see how all of these are very weak, right? So the European, for some reason, had like a Cat 2 for one of them on the European ensembles. This is really what I agree with. I agree with all of this. If we do see any, they will be very, very weak, and the main issue will just be some gusty winds, and if they do end up hitting the U.S., maybe some isolated flash flooding. But I'm not really worried about this for any type of tropical storm or hurricane impacts for the U.S., but it is still worth watching. And then you can see the main development region here on the GFS ensembles as well. If we go ahead and pull this out, we're going to pull this not too far. We're going to go to 300 hours. That's pretty far, but just not absurdly far. So you can see it's really the same signal there, really the same signal. The reason why I had to go out further with this one is because it's an older model one. Let me see. Okay, the 12Z is in, so actually let's go back a little bit. We don't want to go too far out. So yeah, you could see it's generally the same area, right? Generally the same area as the European ensembles, except for they're not as fast. they're not as fast. The European ensembles have some getting to Cape Verde in a week and a half, whereas the GFS ensembles, this is pretty much 2 weeks out at this point, and none of them have even got close to Cape Verde, or rather, I might have said Cape Verde the first time too. None of them have gotten close to the Lesser Antilles or Puerto Rico. That's what I was trying to say. So if we switch back to the European ensembles, you can see a lot of these are going right for the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico. And the GFS ensembles, most of them are back towards Cape Verde and away from the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico. So we do have to figure out which one we're going to see. There's a chance that this system could start steering towards the Northern Lesser Antilles, or it could just be out to sea. Personally, I don't think it's going to be a Caribbean problem like in here. I would, if you are in Puerto Rico or the Northern Lesser Antilles, the British Virgin Islands, I would be keeping an eye on this because it doesn't hurt. This system has a chance to head generally your way, but either way, even if it does get very close to the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico, I still think it's ultimately going to miss. It's just a matter of how close it will be. And right now, I'm definitely a lot more leaning towards the fish storm type of things here. The European ensembles, I want to go back to the 00Z. You can see the 00Z, those were also leaning towards more of a fish storm. Some get it close to the Lesser Antilles, but the good news is many of those are very weak, tropical storm at best. And the 12Z, you can see all that has shifted south. Now, if we see another, if we see like a southern shift on our GFS ensembles and the Euro ensembles stay south on this newest guidance, then maybe we could start talking about this heading closer to the Caribbean. But right now we are 240 hours out. This is the end of the European ensembles, and the GFS ensembles we went 280 hours out on. So very far out, a lot can change. And really not a lot of confidence in the system fully developing. Half of these have it a depression, and the other half kind of have it as a tropical storm. It's kind of a 50-50 scenario on our ensembles. The GFS is definitely a lot more weak with most of our systems and most of our ensembles here. You can see a few of these, though, do get it to tropical storm force, maybe even 1 hurricane force wind speeds there. So the good news is, again, if we just switch between these two, I'm going to just say it again here, none of them actually take it like directly into the Caribbean and like back up into like the Gulf or whatnot. So any impacts past the Lesser Antilles, this area in here, I don't see it possible that we see this system go into the Caribbean completely. And I really don't think it's going to go this far south. I feel like these are some outliers down in here. I feel like, that might be a second wave. I wonder if that is a second wave. Let's go all the way back. Kind of see where this originates at. So yeah, that originates further south. So this is the area of interest the NHC has tagged, and then the European ensembles developed something else here, and that indeed does go towards the Caribbean. But I don't think anything else shows that. I mean, you can see the GFS. Is this the, what in the world? Is this like the new one or something? Hold on, let me go back to 12Z. There we go. Yeah, you can see the GFS here going all the way out. This is 100 hours. A little low pressures, but they all just dissipate just southwest of Cape Verde. Oh, a few of them survive, so we might have to watch that. That's a little second area of, I wouldn't really, I guess, area to watch. I'm not going to say area of interest, but just a kind of second area to watch. Just south of your main area of interest. So this one's probably going to go out to sea. But this second one, if it survives, could go closer to the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. Curious if any of these kind of more experimental ones, is this for Aaron or something here from like a while ago? Nope, these are actually, I don't even know what this is. This is just something new that Weather Nerds added. While the good news is pretty much all of them except for one are out to sea. So I like to see that. Pretty much all except for this one right in here take the systems out to sea. And let me go to this one. Yeah, so these definitely, the thing I'm really surprised of is these survive. These ensembles survive the journey, right? They're not all dying and dissipating in here like the GFS ensembles and some of the European ensembles. Whatever these two ensembles are, the GENC and the, where are you? It's up here. The GDM F and V3. So these two, I'm pretty sure, they're probably experimental, most likely. But the good news is both of them seem to take most of this stuff out to sea. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it. I'll be straight up with you. Haven't gotten a chance to look at our deterministics today. So we're going to look at that together to see what type of monstrosity the GFS spits out here. So I don't know if this thing shows like nothing or like a Cat 3 or something. We're going to find out together. So pull this on forward. There's our main AOI. You can see that is the second area that our ensembles are picking up. I think that is it down there. And the GFS just destroys it. Yep, the GFS kind of either merges it with our main area of interest or just destroys it further south. Main area of interest, I'm also keeping an eye on that. It's still surviving a little bit down there. You can see it. Still a bit wobbly down in here where my cursor is. Yeah, so that goes and becomes a tropical depression here on September 4th, and then likely a tropical storm just shortly after that. And it stalls, what do you know? It stalls out a hurricane. Oh my goodness. When I see this many moving parts, the first thing that comes to mind is a lot of uncertainty. We've got a high pressure over the northeastern U.S., with a huge Arctic blast, actually, over the portions of far southeastern Canada. Some type of double low action over here, hurricane here, and then our Azores high over here. And our Bermuda high is generally in here, but looks very, very weak, if not even present at that point. So I don't know what in the world. Yeah, this model is... this is going to change in one model one. I can guarantee it. Our 18Z's coming in now. I bet this whole thing is going to be different. But it does indeed develop a hurricane out of our main AOI near Cape Verde there. And then also looking for... I do see... What in the world? Let's go to Vorticity. I think I see like 5 different areas here. Let's see. I want to go a little bit lower. I guess 700 is the lowest we're going to be able to get. Yeah, but you could see, like, literally, right in here, you've got one blob here, another blob down in here, another blob here, another one here, another one in here, and then, of course, our main AOI right there. I don't know why the GFS has so many little areas. Like, look at it. You could see them. Those are all tropical blobs. One even goes along the coastline of Florida somehow. One goes under a very weak high pressure there. Very, very interesting stuff. I don't know what the GFS is on. Let's go to the European and see if it's even remotely similar. Alright, so there's your main... Your main AOI really doesn't do anything. That's your main AOI, right? Nope. That's your main AOI right there. And it goes just barely to the south of Cape Verde, and your high pressure... I want to compare these two. Sorry for switching it so much. But I can already tell you 2 things here. One, your GFS's 12Z high pressure is much further north compared to your 18Z GFS. And another thing is your system originates a lot further south on the 18Z compared to the 12Z. The 12Z originates the AOI barely south of Cape Verde, whereas the 18Z originates it pretty well south. You could see it's down in here. It's down in here as opposed to like right up here. So right off the bat, the 18Z GFS is probably going to be a little bit more accurate. But either way, it still starts to kind of curve it up with that high pressure. And what about the European? The European high pressure definitely is way further north. So that's not going to have as big of a steering hold on things. Gracious, that high pressure is dominant. Look at that. That is a dominant high pressure. That thing is dominating your entire northern Atlantic basin right there. Look at that. Huge high pressure on the European model run. Of course, it is going to get weaker with southern extent here. So these lows coming off the coastline of Africa, they definitely would be able to take a more southern trajectory. Now, probably not into the Caribbean, but maybe a little bit closer to Cape Verde. Let's see a little bit further. Yeah, you could see it gets, I said Cape Verde again, the Lesser Antilles, gracious day. You can see the European model run here gets it a little close, not too close, but it is a little close to the Northern Lesser Antilles. Definitely way closer than the GFS. Again, I'll go back to the GFS here. You can see the 12Z GFS kept it way out to sea, really far out to sea there. And what about the Canadian? This is the CMC 12Z. That also, okay, that originates your wave way further north. Look how much further north that is. That's over Cape Verde. And then see where that takes it. It should take it. Yeah, it definitely takes it maybe a little bit north, but not really anything too crazy. Not really anything too crazy, like not too far south, not too far north, kind of in the middle. So long story short, we're just going to be watching the main development region. I think there's a much higher chance this thing goes out to sea than heads towards the Caribbean. I think this is going to be another fifth storm, and it may be able to become a tropical depression or a tropical storm. I think if it goes like this, it probably has a better chance to become a tropical storm if it heads like this. Now, if it goes like that sharp turn like the GFS was showing and having, maybe not so much. And also, if it takes that far southern trajectory, it's probably not going to survive either. So, I don't know here. I think the NHC is probably just going to keep it at a 20% for a little while until we get a little bit closer to when this thing gets a organized low pressure. It should become an invest eventually, probably somewhere just to the southwest of Cape Verde, but I expect it to become an invest eventually in its lifespan. And you can see the AI, this is the AI European model run here. You can see the AI Euro takes it kind of like this. Takes it much closer, maybe even the closest out of all of our model runs to the Northern Lesser Antilles, very close to the Northern Lesser Antilles, but because it goes very close to the Lesser Antilles there, it's not as favorable of an environment, so it just dies right out. Which are experimental ensembles, the GE&C and whatever the GM friggin' FV3. I can't keep up with the letters and numbers they put on these things anymore. Whatever those two experimental ensembles were, those actually strengthened it north of the Lesser Antilles, so... another hurricane season and another season full of uncertainties, right? So basically, all you need to know, long story short, we're keeping an eye out for the potential of a tropical depression towards the middle portion of next week, somewhere around or just west of Cape Verde. And anything beyond that, there's high uncertainty. Some push it into the Caribbean and kill it. Some push it in the Caribbean and make it survive. Some push it out to sea and kill it around the high pressure. Some push it north of the Lesser Antilles and kill it near the Bahamas. So there's so much uncertainty beyond the day 7 or so mark that it's really not worth discussing. You know, we're still pointed out and show you the ensembles and stuff, but it's really not worth doing a huge deep dive into impacts or anything like that. So just keep an eye on, again, this area here. That's the area to watch for the next week or so. And very easily could see a tropical depression. Now, a tropical storm is probably going to be a bit harder to get out of it, but it wouldn't shock me if it develops. It wouldn't shock me if it doesn't develop. It could go either way. It could go either way. And aside from that, into the Caribbean, we do want to keep an eye on any vorticity blobs we see in this area here. I give it a very highly unlikely chance that we see anything develop in that area, but still going to keep an eye on it because why not? It doesn't hurt to watch that area. We typically do see tropical storms and depressions form in that region every hurricane season. We've already had one and nearly had a second one. already this season. You remember that random 40% AOI we got south of Texas, and then we did indeed have a tropical storm very close to Mexico, I believe. Now I gotta go look. See, now I gotta go look because I don't want to be dead wrong. Now I gotta go look. Let me go to climatology. Yep, we did. We had a tropical storm make landfall in Mexico. I thought so. Yeah, that originated off of just barely northwest of Honduras. That went over the Yucatan Peninsula. That was a tropical storm. So we had a almost tropical storm south of Texas that originated from this area, and we did have a tropical storm hit Mexico that originated from this area. You got an ad in the middle. Why'd you get an ad? Bruh. YouTube automatically turned on mid. What? Why are ads on? No, no ads. What in the world? Y'all aren't supposed to be getting ads in the middle of this. I apologize, y'all. Thank you for telling me, Caleb. Why did that change? You guys are not supposed to be getting ads in the middle of my live streams. I'm sorry about that. I promise you I did not do that on purpose. I genuinely don't know how that setting got turned on. Like, I think that is just YouTube being garbage again. I apologize if you guys had any ads in the middle of my streams. I try to only keep that when you first click on and when when the outro music is playing. That's literally the only 2 times I try to have ads. In the middle of it, I try my best to not have ads at all. But sometimes YouTube's like, hey, I don't care what you're saying. I'm putting an ad right here in the middle of your coverage. This is the icon model one. You can see it does spin up a tropical depression out here. Or at least just something to keep an eye on for sure. Southwest of Cape Verde. A little bit more aggressive. Yeah, the 18Z is much more aggressive. You can see the 12Z definitely doesn't have anything like a tropical depression or anything like that. Although it would be pretty close by the time it gets in this point here, depending on if that would be a closed low or not. But the 18Z, let me see the 18Z. Yeah, the 18Z, you could see right under that low pressure, there's a heavier amount of rainfall right there. That would be very close to a tropical depression. So, I haven't seen, other than the GFS, I haven't seen anything really that insane in terms of the system. And look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. GFS just completely backed off on the system. We'll see if it develops into a tropical storm on here. So the GFS is really the only thing that I've seen develop a high-end tropical storm or almost a hurricane out of it. The ensembles, many of the ensembles, almost all of them say tropical depression to low-end tropical storm, and the GFS was the only one saying hurricane, category 2. Look at this one. Let me show you again, just for those who may not have seen it. GFS had 964 millibar Cat 2 there. Yeah, and that was only on the GFS, so that's why I didn't really talk about it much. It's definitely much further south, too. Look at that. This is the old GFS, new GFS. So it's definitely considerably more south. Of course, this is 198. This is 198 hours out, so anything more than 180, and we're, of course, going to see these shifts in the forecast. It very easily could shift back north. It wouldn't surprise me, but it's just something to keep an eye on to see which way things trend, because that's what you want to look at. You don't want to look at only the deterministic. If you're looking at deterministics, the best way to look at it is to see how it's trended. We do that in tornado season too, to see which way our troughs trended, and in this case for hurricane season, we're looking to see which direction our tropical system is trended and if the strength has changed. Which in this case, the system is substantially weaker and quite a bit further to the south. And why is it further to the south? Well, if you look here, on this one, you've got a high pressure way up here, and it looks like maybe a secondary high kind of crammed in this area, and that's helping to pull the system more north. Whereas on the newer one, you see that high pressure is more west. So still, with the high pressure being over here and over here, this system is still going to just be curved right out to sea. That's a given. But it's just that turn starts a little bit later on the newer run because that high pressure is a little bit more north on the newer run, whereas on the older run it was a little bit more south, meaning the high pressure could grab it sooner. Also, you had a random low pressure on the 12Z one. Look at that. Random low in the middle of a high pressure. Literally, look at that. You got a high pressure here, and you got a low pressure slammed in the middle of them. And on the newest GFS, it got rid of that random low pressure. So, I do want to look at the 12Z further out here, though. Huh. Interesting. One of the main things I see right here is that's going to be a trough over the U.S. I see a trough over the U.S., so that would be a severe weather maker right there. I had to see that. Just the way how that swings across, that would definitely be a chance for severe weather, but that's very far out. So when you're this far out, I want to show you how much this stuff changes. This far out. Watch this. If I can get it to change. Look how much this changes. This is the newest, or the second newest run. And look how over the last 4 runs, the whole pattern changes. Your high pressure jumps 600 miles from north to southwest. Your low pressure teleports a couple hundred miles. I don't even know where this one goes. I think that goes up here to Greenland. And then it teleports back. I mean, you just can't do it. You just can't look at model runs this far out and try to predict what's going to happen with the pattern. Now, it is a little bit easier when you go to ensembles. If you go to ensembles and you go to the means here and we go to 12Z and we go all the way out, this at least gives us some idea. So this would still be driving a more out to sea pattern. That's just the name of the game in 2025. Out to sea. You can just see the high pressure is way up here. So that doesn't allow for any good steering further to the south. Your high pressure has to be in the perfect place. The best is when you have your Azores high over here and your Bermuda high, like generally somewhere down in here. So your Bermuda high, your Azores high doesn't really influence the system much, and your Bermuda high steers it to the west, and then it can steer it up and either into the southeastern U.S. Or very close to the east coast. That's the best setup for landfalling systems towards like the southeastern U.S. or close to the Bahamas or near Puerto Rico. Now, for the Caribbean, it's all about where the system originates. If your system originates, say you have this setup, high pressure here, high pressure maybe like right here, right? If your system comes off near Cape Verde, that sucker's going to go just like this. Or it may even go just like this in between the two highs. But if it originates south of Cape Verde, well, those high pressures aren't going to have a good hold on it. So it's going to go more like this. And then who knows where it would go from there. It depends on what the pattern looks like in the Caribbean. It could go straight. It could go more north. It could go right into Central America. It just depends from there. But it depends on where that system originates. And that's what I was showing y'all with weather nerds here on the European ensembles. Sorry, I didn't expect to see that ensemble right there. I thought it was on the wrong thing for a second. So you can see this is our main AOI from the NHC, right? And it originates near Cape Verde, very, very close to Cape Verde, if not almost over Cape Verde. And we have a strong high pressure up in this general area here, so this thing's just going to go generally out to sea. It may go a little bit more south, but generally it's going to go somewhere out to sea like that. Whereas the European ensembles initiate a different system here. So you have 2 different initiation points from 2 different systems. I don't think this one's going to form. I think the European ensemble is a little bit too aggressive with that. But because this one originates further to the south and west, that high pressure doesn't have a hold on it. So it just moves off to the west. Whereas this system forms east, closer to that high pressure, and a little bit more north, closer to that high pressure. So your high pressure can steer it either a little bit more north than the other system, or completely out to sea, depending on where your high pressure is located and which way it moves, because obviously your high pressure ain't going to be the same for a week straight. Also, this is your sea surface temperatures, and you can clearly tell where Aaron tracked right in here. Still can clearly tell where Aaron tracked. I'm actually haven't looked at that this week. Analysis tools, ocean, temperature change in the Western Atlantic. Yeah, still cooling. Looks like it's still cooling. Maybe a little bit more warming close to it on the edges, but you could still see a very clear area of where Aaron tracked through. So I don't know. I don't know. This hurricane season, in my opinion, don't look so good. It doesn't look so good. I think a lot of the systems will be out to sea, and I think a lot of them will be weak. Kind of like what Ferdinand was. I think we'll see a lot more systems like Ferdinand where it just forms out in the near Cape Verde or northwest Cape Verde and then goes out to sea. But all it takes is one. All it takes is one. Yet last year we had two. 2023 we had one. 2022 for some reason I can't remember. But all it takes is one. All it takes is one hurricane. One hurricane to start here and move to the northeast. One tropical storm here to move to the northwest. One tropical storm here to move to the north. All it takes is one in this type of environment that we have in place in here, and it can easily become a hurricane or a major hurricane. We are boiling in the Caribbean and the Gulf. I mean, boiling. Like literally 32, almost maxed out, as hot as you can get sea surface temperatures off the coastline of Cuba and southern Florida. I mean, we are cooking out here in the sea surface temperature department. So literally all it takes is just one to get into that environment with minimal wind shear, and it's going to explode. But so far, we haven't had any signs of that. You got to get the perfect track for that too, right? Because if you get a system that starts here and then it goes into the Central America, that's not getting into that favorable environment. If it starts here and then goes into like Cuba and the Bahamas, it's still not getting into that favorable environment. So you have to have that track, like last year that we had with Helene and Milton. Milton started here, which was a very odd spot, and moved across very, very warm waters until it got to near Tampa. And we had a Dahlia, or not a Dahlia, Dahlia was 2023. We had Helene. Where did Helene even originate from? I forgot where Helene started. I know Helene was somewhere. Now I'm mixing Helene up with a Dahlia, because I got all the pictures of a Dahlia in my mind now. I know where it made landfall, obviously, but I forgot where it originated from. Let's see. Oh, it did start a little close to where Adalia started. That's why I'm mixing them up. So Adalia started like right here, and Helene was like right here. I mean, Helene was right next to where Adalia started. Obviously, Adalia was a year earlier. But yeah, we had Helene that tracked perfectly just like that right into Florida. And then we had Milton that tracked just like that perfectly into Florida. But if we don't get a good track like that, then, we may not see a major hurricane in the Gulf. Major hurricanes making landfall in the U.S. were very rare before 2017. And ever since then, it's almost been like, it feels like it's been a yearly occurrence. But it's pretty difficult to see a major hurricane hit the U.S. once a year, although that is becoming almost the new normal. So who knows? Fingers crossed. Maybe we don't get a major hurricane landfalling system this year. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I think we are bound to see a hurricane eventually, very close to, if not head towards the U.S. That's just almost a given in any hurricane season, especially one. Now NOAA changed their forecast. They're predicting a 50% chance of an above average season. So definitely, now that it's forecast to be near or above average, it's almost a given. Almost a given. Obviously, anything can happen. So I think the main thing for this hurricane season is, what does the steering current look like in late September? I think that is the biggest thing. I think for the next 2 weeks, I still don't expect much in the Caribbean or in the Gulf. I really think this area here is going to be highly inactive for the next 2 weeks. Still would watch from Puerto Rico towards the Leeward Islands, just in case the AOI that is way out there near Cape Verde gets a close call, but that's too far out to say. But this area here, I think, is going to be very inactive for the next 2 weeks. We still want to watch in here. Still want to watch in here. So watch this area. North of that, I think, is going to be very inactive. And then we do want to watch like right over in here, just off your screen for this recurve pattern out here in the main development region, obviously. Which if I go further out, there you go. Yeah, we want to watch right in here. This whole area. This whole area. Because this system that's currently near Cape Verde, like I said, it could go like this, could go like this, could go like this. Either way, I think ultimately it's out to sea. The worst case scenario, it's a close call for the Northern Lesser Antilles, but either way, I think it's going to be out to sea. Now, on the thumbnail you that you clicked on, you probably saw that I have some of the colors going into the Northern Caribbean. I've actually forgot what my thumbnail looks like. Ironic enough. Let me see. Yeah, so I have the red going into towards Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles. Not the purple just yet, but the purple is very, very close. The reason why I have that red so far to the west, I have a reason for my thumbnails. I don't just flop them together. Let me pull it up first. Give me a second. This bad boy right here. The CPC's outlook for September 10th through the 16th. This is the second week of September. Almost mid-September, if not, I consider that mid-September. That bad boy right there, huge area. Honestly, could have got away with highlighting a much larger area than what I did on my thumbnail. But the CPC has this entire area highlighted for a really good chance for a tropical cyclone to form, tropical depression or greater, and about 40% chance in here. Now, notice that 40% chance does stop before the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico. So the best chance is going to be with like an out-to-sea storm like this, right? Something that crosses pretty close to that area of interest from the CPC. They also do have this area highlighted. That area used to be a bit larger. We're generally going to be just keeping an eye on this area in here, just in case any vorticity blobs come off of South America and move up to the northwest. We just want to keep an eye on that. So the least active area for the next 2 weeks should be right in here. Right in here. The Central Caribbean, really. Dead Central Caribbean up into Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Bahamas, Florida. I don't expect anything for a long time there. Now, on the September 3rd through 9th, you can see they decrease the chance of anything forming. So only a 20% chance here. So our AOI, we're going to be dealing with our AOI for at least a week minimum. The next week, we'll be talking about the AOI that's currently somewhere in here. And they have about a 20% chance of tropical development in this area. Again, that's because there is a system here we're watching that could track up to the west. And of course, our AOI that is, I don't know, somewhere, the waves coming off somewhere over in this area. Moving up like that. So best chance for tropical development towards the first few days of September will definitely be on the eastern half of this AOI. And then towards the middle of September, we're going to want to watch that a bit closer. We'll have to see where our high pressures are. That's the big question. That's the big question. Where's our steering current? Because our steering current easily could favor a more out to sea, just like that. Or it could favor a more westerly trajectory. We'll just have to see. Only time will tell, right? It's anyone's guess. All I know is that I'm going to be watching the main development region very closely. And every now and then I'm going to be checking in the Southern Caribbean and the Southwestern Gulf, just in case. But if you are anywhere along the southeastern coastline of the U.S., the eastern coastline of the U.S., again, it's hurricane season. We're approaching the peak of hurricane season. We're only a little bit more than about a week and a half out from the dead peak of hurricane season, that being September 10th is the peak of hurricane season. So we'll probably have at least one, maybe even two areas to watch in the peak of hurricane season. But I think that's our average peak of our average peak hurricane season is September 10th. But the worst of our hurricane seasons in the last like 7 years have been after September 10th, typically after September 15th, somewhere between the 15th of September and the 20th of October. That has actually been our real peak of activity. Typically, the last week or so of September, the first week of October. Last year, we had both Helene and Milton in very close proximity to each other towards the end of September, the beginning of October. We had Adalia in the end of September in 2023. And then most of our systems are on the last few days of September or the first few days of October. The main ones that, we say, all it takes is one hurricane or one major hurricane. Those are typically at the end of September to the beginning of October. So just because when September 10th comes and it's the peak of hurricane season, if we don't have any hurricanes on September 10th or any major hurricanes on September 10th, that doesn't mean the rest of the season is going to be completely inactive. I've seen people say that very, very often. Even actually just saw a post before that, we don't have any tropical storms out there anymore. Ferdinand's dissipated, extratropical, no longer getting advisories. We don't have any hurricanes, no major hurricanes, no real solid areas to watch. Now we have that 20%, but we don't have anything higher than a 30% chance of development. So I've seen a lot of people say that it's probably going to be like a below average hurricane season. We're not going to see a thing, but all it takes is one system. All it takes is one system, and we're going to have a lot more. We are going to have a lot more. The end of September and the beginning of October. That is going to be our likely peak of this hurricane season. So if that did confuse you, I'll reiterate it again. The climatological peak of hurricane season is September 10th. But typically, our landfalling hurricane or major hurricane or the hurricane that everyone remembers each year, that's typically after September 15th, which is beyond the climatological peak of hurricane season. So we'll keep an eye on it for sure. But right now, the U.S., also to say this too, the U.S. is not under any threat of a tropical system anytime soon. I don't think we will be for another 2 weeks. I'm really not going to be watching the U.S. in terms of tropical systems for still another 2 weeks or so. It seems like both this system is probably going to go out to sea. The one that is currently south of Cape Verde, probably out to sea. If not, it's going to be close to the Lesser Antilles. Now, this one towards the middle of September, we'll have to see about that one. The stuff in the Caribbean, if anything does manage to form in the Caribbean, it's probably going to be either very far south or go towards the Yucatan Peninsula and or Mexico. Right now, I don't see any steering current pattern or anything like that that is going to be bringing a tropical system towards the U.S. So, like I said, we're going to keep an eye on things. We're going to watch it closely. I'll update you guys if I see anything changing substantially or if it looks like something's changed. But right now, it looks pretty inactive. I'm thinking a tropical depression out of this AOI, maybe a tropical storm. I'm expecting it to stay out to sea. We're going to be watching the Southwest Caribbean and the Southern Gulf closely as well. And once again, definitely going to be watching the back half of our hurricane season towards September 10th all the way towards October 15th. That's going to be the main time frame to watch for hurricane season. I love how some people act like hurricane season, the main stuff happens in like early August. I saw a tweet on it the other day. Like some people base a hurricane season off what happens in like the first 2 weeks of August. We still have like 80% left of our hurricane season. we still have the main portion of our hurricane season left. We still have the main portion of our hurricane season remaining. Not every hurricane season is going to be like 2020 and 2005. Well, yeah, last year we had Beryl, which was very impressive. But, I mean, this year we had Aaron. So, honestly, this year has been. We haven't had a landfalling hurricane. If I'm not mistaken, we had a hurricane in Florida last year in August. I'm pretty sure we had a hurricane make landfall in somewhere in here near Cedar Key. I remember a hurricane making landfall last year in August. Is there a way I can check that? Let's see. 2024 hurricane season. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Like right in here. Pretty sure we had a Cat 1 hurricane make landfall. And that thing started over Cuba. That thing started over Cuba, went back into the Caribbean south of Cuba, then went into the Southeast Gulf and then hit Florida. That thing was crazy. I wish I could look at each month. But yeah, right now we're sitting at a barely above average hurricane season ace wise. Named storms wise, I'm pretty sure we're running a little bit above average. Our first major hurricane isn't typically until like around the first week of September, and we already had Aaron. So I'm pretty sure we're running just a little bit more above average. Yeah, we're 6 named storms in. One of those being a major hurricane. 5 tropical storms and 1 category 5. Look at that. That's a weird statistic right there. We've had 5 tropical storms, and the only one that became a hurricane ended up becoming a category 5 hurricane. That's crazy. That thing was long track too. Tropical storm barely west of Cape Verde, and then it didn't dissipate into a subtropical storm until south of Nova Scotia. That's just crazy. It was out there for almost 2 weeks being a tropical storm. Yeah, I think we're about average, maybe a little above average right now for hurricane season. Depends on what you compare it to. Climatology, I think we are probably running very close to average. It depends on if you're comparing it to like last year or year prior, or what years. Yeah, we do have a tornado warning out here in Louisiana, south of Richwood. So if you're in that, make sure you are in your safe spot, away from doors and windows, and stay in your safe spot until that warning expires in 37 minutes. We will not be live for that long. We're getting ready to conclude. If you guys have any questions about weather or anything like that, go ahead and shoot them in the comments real quick. I'll try to answer them. I don't have too long here, so but yeah, just to give another briefing, I like to do this at the end of my briefings. Watching this AOI for about the next week, maybe a little more than a week, most likely an out to sea storm. We'll monitor that closely. Towards the beginning of September into the middle of September, we're also going to be watching this area for the chance of a spin up tropical depression, likely going to stay either in the Southwest Caribbean or the Southwest Gulf. And we'll also, towards the middle of September, that's going to be when we start watching this area a bit more. We're going to be watching this area a little bit more towards the middle of September. But yeah. All right, that's going to be about it. So, yeah, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, share this channel with your family, friends, social media. This live stream, obviously, I'll keep it up and I'll retitle it for those who may want to watch it at a later date. And this live stream should be really good information, maybe until tomorrow afternoon. Even then, the only thing that may change tomorrow is they may up this to a 30%. But in my opinion, I think they should just keep it at a 20% until we get more information. Because right now, things aren't too aggressive. Our ensembles are kind of 50-50 on tropical development, and most of our global models have a tropical depression at best. So, I mean, shoot. Really, for the next week or so, we're just going to be talking about this, really, all the way till like September 5th, and then we'll start watching towards the Caribbean and the Southwest Gulf. So, I don't know when I'll be live next. Whenever I feel like it, I'll just start up a live stream like I did today. I didn't plan to go live today until an hour ago, or an hour and a half ago. So, I will see you guys, and the stream has just decided to disconnect on me. Gotta love it. Streamlabs just gave me a notification for that. Hopefully that was a quick lag spike and nothing else there. No severe weather. I mean, today we have the chance for a spin-up tornado, as you can see by a tornado warning active right now, but no notable severe weather. It's going to be probably not till typically November. Late October into November, we start talking about big-time mega troughs again. So, all right. I'll start the music here in about 45 seconds, and then 3 minutes after that starts, the live stream will end. I appreciate the mods for mod and chat. I appreciate everybody for being here. Great to hang out with you guys again, just talk to tropics for a little bit, even if it's not anything too crazy, which glad to see it's nothing too crazy. I wish hurricane season could just stay this inactive, and we just never have something to talk about. That'd be great. But unfortunately, there's eventually going to be another hurricane, maybe even another major hurricane. I mean, geez, we should see another two major hurricanes this season. So we'll see when those are. Only time will tell. So I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Stay safe. Watch severe weather in the tropics. And again, thank you, mods, for mod chat. Goodbye. Caleb, go study. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday night, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe and watch the tropics. Good.